Hello everybody, welcome back to Typical City, Manchester City to spend big spending in Manchester City coming up, and I can't wait. I've got 9 players that we've been linked with to go through with you right now, and a potential starting 11 that could include some of them, the ones that I believe that could Manchester City sign, and should Manchester City sign as well, and a few honourable mentions. And I need to be a little bit quick about this because I've got a Tesco delivery coming at 4 o'clock, so I need to wrap this up before 4 o'clock. So we've got an hour. The guy knows me as well. The Tesco delivery driver actually recognised me. I'm getting recognised by people now. Hoo-hoo, look at me. Hoo-hoo, I'm on YouTube. Look at that. Recognised by the Tesco delivery driver. Are you that big-eared lanky streak of piss on YouTube? And I was like, yep, that's me. Anyway, let's crack on so I don't disappoint him and I can have a good old chat about how poo Manchester City are right now. These targets that Manchester City are linked with, let's predominantly focus on the areas that we need, first of all. So, I mean, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are midfielders. 2 of them are right backs, which Manchester City have been linked with. All of these players we've been linked with. There's no hopeful names in here, names that are being pulled out of a hat. I've got a couple that I could think of that I'll get onto lately. There's a one honourable mention that I think Manchester City should be looking at, but none of the summer names are going to come up here. So you're not looking at Wirtz, you're not looking at Baena and Musiala and summer transfers that Manchester City are going to be looking at in 2025. This is predominantly in January with all the names that have been linked with Manchester City. So let's get cracking, shall we? Let's start with the first and most recent name, Mr. Joshua Kimmich, which is a player that I've been very fond of for quite some time at Manchester City. And I think we should be going in strong. We should have got him from him summer, to be honest, I felt like. But the concern with Joshua Kimmich is the fact that, one, he's 29 years old. So, I mean, he's going to be reaching 30 by the time we're in 2025-26 season. But, I mean, 29 years old, it's not old. Do you know what I mean? 30, we seem to hit that mark now in players where if you're 30, you're considered old. Well, I'm not sure that it depends on the player, you know, especially at the position as well. That's reasonable. That's peak for a midfielder. You know, you're thinking centre forwards, yeah, you start to lose your pace, things like that. But he's never been one for pace, much more of a technical player. The key one for me in Joshua Kimmich is the fact that he's versatile. And I think that's a massive addition. You think of what Matheus Nunes was doing against Manchester United, what Rico Lewis has been doing all season. You know, that right-back role, but inverting into defensive midfield. Picture Joshua Kimmich doing that. I think that's an exciting prospect. The issue with Joshua Kimmich for me is the fact that there is 7 months left on his contract, which seems foolish for City to spend money when we're 7 months away from being able to get him for free. But needs must. We need players. There's no two ways about it. There's no January player that isn't going to cost Manchester City money. And the problem with Joshua Kimmich is the reported fee, which I completely disagree with, is 10 million is all it will take, apparently. No way will it be 10 million. No way is Joshua Kimmich going to be a £10 million signing, because he has played every single minute for Bayern Munich this season. Every single possible available minute of football he could have possibly played, he's played. You know, not been subbed on, he's not been subbed off, not a single moment of substitutions for Joshua Kimmich. So they need him. So Bayern Munich very much depend on this player. That's the issue for this transfer situation with Joshua Kimmich for me. So I think it's doable, though. You factor in the relationship with Pep as well. I think we all remember the days when he was at Bayern Munich, being the manager of Bayern Munich, and that moment where he just got in his face. Do you know what I mean? Just like shaking his skull. Listen to my information, absorb my information, Joshua, and you're going to be a worldie of a player. He obviously took on a lot of what Pep Guardiola taught him, because he has gone on to be an absolute incredible player. I mean, a lot of the other managers will have had a say in that as well, that he's been under the tutelage of. But Joshua Kimmich and Pep Guardiola, they've often been like that. So I do feel there's a possibility that the Pep factor could be big on this one. Could be very big on this one. I'm actually bordering, and I've got an idea that I actually think that he is one of the players that Manchester City should be targeting, because of that versatility that I've already mentioned to you as well. But there are other players as well on this list. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't already. It's good to see you guys in the chat, and subscribe if you're new as well. How's everybody doing, first of all? Because I gone live 2 days in a row. Whoa, getting a bit funky on Typical City. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all good. Right, who's next? What we got? Let's see if this works. It bloody worked as well. Bruno G, the most obvious one. I think everybody has been excited. Well, not excited is an objective word, because not everyone is as excited as some. I do still maintain there's a flaw to his game that's concerning, but I don't think it's anything to get overly concerned about. I think there's a player that could adapt to Pep Guardiola in terms of and Manchester City on the whole. He will be surrounded by better players. I mean, right now, the argument maybe not so. The way that the form is right now in terms of Newcastle's form versus Manchester City's form, yeah, not sure about that. But in terms of what the legacy of these players are that are surrounding him, the experienced heads that will be around him, obviously the Brazilian contingency that we're building at Manchester City could be a big pull factor for him as well. You've got Ederson there, Savinho's there now as well. So, yeah, Bruno G, I think he's one that will cost a lot of money for Manchester City. His contract expires in 2028, but do not forget Newcastle need to sell. They need to sell. They need to comply with profit and sustainability regulations. So with that in mind, he's one of their best assets in terms of value. I think they could cash in on him. Some of the fees that I'm hearing are all over the place. Some going up to 100, some going down to 65 million pounds. I believe, because his market value is around 80 million, I believe 85 million gets this deal done. I think they'll be done pretty quickly. If we offered 85 million from the get-go, I feel like this is a done deal fairly quickly, which is good. Rumours are suggesting that Manchester City are prepared to swap a player for Bruno G to not leave Newcastle completely in the lurch, with James McAtee being a potential player going the other way, which, yeah, I think that's a realistic swap deal for Bruno Guimaraes and James McAtee. McAtee's not getting anywhere near this side. In a team that desperately needs a little bit of a spark, a bit of creativity, and he's sat right there and Pep doesn't even want to use him. So, I mean, his days are numbered. It's a sad day, really, for James McAtee when he eventually does leave the football club, because I think there was a promising player there. He's just not quite got what it takes to make it at this level for Manchester City right now, which is a shame. But the one thing you do get with Bruno G, compared to pretty much all of the names on this list, apart from one, is Premier League experience. And I think that's quite important in the middle of January. Because there's no need to bed him in. You know what I mean? There'll be limited amount of time. There won't be as much time for him needed to hit the ground running. He will be able to do that. Being a Premier League experienced player, I think that's vitally important in January. And Bruno G has got that in abundance as well. 27 years old as well, so you're buying a peak player that's going to guarantee. Well, injuries aside, obviously, if he picks up a brutal injury, that's can't be helped. But you're looking at 5 years, really, aren't you, there with Bruno G in terms of the contract that we'd sign, and 5 years of top quality as well. Getting him to the age of 32, that's probably where a player of his attributes, his style, and his position on the pitch at 32, that's when the decline starts, really, isn't it? And you start to see a visible difference in the player. We've got 5 years, and you spread amortisation with the 85 million fee that's reportedly going to be enough to get him into a Manchester City shirt. That starts to look not too bad over the years, especially with the value that he's going to bring. Don't forget, I did make a point about his abilities. I can't emphasise enough that his defensive attributes are fantastic. He has got a goal in him. He's got a screamer in him. He's got one of the highest expected assists, higher than Rodri last season as well. So he's got the ability to create. He's got the versatility. Not the same as Kimmich, because it's not like you're going to ask him to drop into right back, but he can push further ahead and become the Gundogan potential role right now, that number 8, and drop into the number 6 as well. So he has got that level of versatility, a different type of versatility to Joshua Kimmich, but still an exciting prospect for Manchester City. Next player. Ederson, not the Brazilian goalkeeper that we've already got. I wouldn't be surprised if Pep goes for it. The things he's tried this season, sticking Ederson, our goalkeeper, into our midfield is probably the next solution. Do you know what I mean? You'll see me in here in a couple of weeks like, typical Jonny on Typical City. He's got a solution. He's got a solution. He's going to stick Ederson into the centre of midfield and Ortega up front. Why the fuck not? Absolutely. But the Ederson that we are being linked with is the Brazilian from Atalanta. Now, I didn't know that much about him I know obviously of him, but the player shone against Real Madrid, I thought, because I watched him. I really thought, right, well, clearly this is a good opportunity for me to target a certain player and study what he's all about. And I watched the game against Real Madrid, Atalanta Real Madrid, and he shone in that game. I thought he looked really good. Mobile was the key word that I wanted to take away. Now, it's not like Bruno G doesn't have mobility, but Ederson just seemed to have that raw pace. He looked quick. He looked big, physical, very big physical presence, and he's got technical ability. 25 years old as well, so contract expires in 2027. He will be cheaper than Bruno G. Now, I know there are people out there that don't care about the money, and the term, it's not my money, is a term that gets thrown around quite a bit. I do think that's a very casual way of looking at it, albeit very true. It's not your money. We can't spend whatever we want. There are regulations in the league that we have to comply to, and if we don't, we end up with points being docked. Ask Nottingham Forest and Everton how that worked out for them. You want to go beyond that in terms of it's not my money. You can't spend too much money to the point where you end up in a Bury situation where the club goes out of business because they've spent so much money. So as much as it's not your money, you can't spend what you want. Do you know what I mean? There has to be some sort of limitations. But I agree with when you're given a budget, why not max it out? Do you know what I mean? If we have got, the rumours are £200 million budget to spend in January, I think we should be spending almost every penny of it to try and rectify the situation and try to fix the potential problem in summer of having to sign even more players, which is definitely going to happen as well. But instead of having a massive job in summer, not as big in summer, because we've done a lot of the groundwork in January. And I think that's important. I really do, because we're not getting a pre-season. FIFA Club World Cup's in the way, so there's no pre-season. So the summer signings that are going to be brought in, they're going to be thrown straight in into football matches, competitive football matches potentially. And then there's going to be that couple-week period where there is a potential pre-season before the Premier League starts. But I mean, you're talking 10 days, not even a couple of weeks. So it's an interesting one. But Ederson, I wouldn't be that bothered about if I think he's a very, very, very smaller step down from Bruno G for me, because there's a couple of years behind him, so there's a couple of years of growth that you could potentially see from Ederson that we have already seen from Bruno G. The lack of Premier League experience, because there's that lack of guarantee in terms of, is he going to hit the ground running? Does he get the Premier League? Things like that. But watching him against Real Madrid, it doesn't seem like the big stage phases him in any shape or form. The guy was mixing it with the best against Real Madrid, and he did not look out of his depth in the slightest. You know, this guy's been bullying big players on the Champions League stage, so I don't see the reason why we can't say that this guy could hit the ground running in the Premier League as well. You know, the price could be interesting as well compared to Bruno G, and that could be the difference in why, if we are going to go down this penny pinching road that we've been going down in the last couple of transfer windows, where we're trying to squeeze as much of the deal as we possibly can out of that deal. You know, you're thinking the Gvardiol deal, I think that was good, you know, and the money we spent on him, what was it, 75 million, around 75 million, with the rumoured fee to be 100 million. We got a good deal, I think, considering his age as well. I think that's a good deal for Josko Gvardiol. But in these circumstances, it's just like, if Newcastle won 85 million for Bruno G, I would go for him. But if you're going down the penny pinching road of saving 20 million here and 10 million there, then Ederson's going to be the next best bet for me. Which, yeah, I wouldn't be too disappointed about. I would be quite happy, in fact, with Ederson. But yeah, 22 appearances, 2 goals and 1 assist to his name so far this season for Ederson. Next name. How's everyone doing, first of all? Because I always ignore you guys too much. I need to stop that. It's a bad habit, and I'll fix it. Don't worry. Liam Delap is a name. I'm not going into any forwards. Not now, at least. But Liam Delap. It would be a big move for a stupid move for him, I think. I think Liam Delap would be a fool to come back to City. Because I've got a point I wanted to talk to you about, and that is the summer, potentially, of Erling Haaland's replacement, or cover, not replacement, cover for Erling Haaland. Who's in their right mind is going to join Manchester City? If you are a self-respecting striker who is worth their weight in gold, and they are the best of the best, the next Erling Haaland, so to speak, or this superstar player, you aren't going to join Manchester City just to sit on the bench. Just ask Julian Alvarez how that felt. Do you know what I mean? He put in a transfer request and off he went. You know, that level of quality wants to start week in, week out. And strikers have big egos because they're strikers. They want to be the main man. They want to be the number one goal scorer for every side they play for. And if they're not, they're frustrated. So Liam Delap going from being a big fish in a small pond, becoming a very, very small fish in a big pond at Manchester City, it would be a backward step for me, for Liam Delap. Personally, I would like him at City, by the way. It would be a great addition for City. From a fan perspective, yeah, get him in, because I think he'd be a perfect... If he's happy to sit on the bench and come on for the last 20 minutes, or maybe play the odd FA Cup game or Champions League, I mean, we're in no position to start different players other than Erling Haaland in the Champions League. But rotationally, yeah, if he's happy to be rotated and be the second string striker, yeah, Liam Delap, if he's okay with it, I'm okay with it. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think he will be. I think it will be a stupid move on his part. But yeah, I agree with you, Zane. We do need a young striker, I think. Or someone who's happy to sit on the bench, alternatively. That's the way I see it. I see it as the young, they're malleable into the happiness levels that they can get at City being on the bench. They're young, they understand they've got a path to walk down first before they can start thinking about saying, oi, Erling Haaland, you've got my number 9 shirt, mate. Piss off, I'm number 9. And as soon as they realise they're not number 9, they're going to be handing in transfer requests. So we can't have that mess. But the fact that City have got 85 million right now off Julian Alvarez's deal, for me, is like another reason why this January transfer should be a big, big spending for Manchester City. Rahul, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Really appreciate that kind donation. Very much appreciated. Gyökeres would be unbelievable, but again, he ain't going to sit on the bench for Erling Haaland. He's the same. Right, moving on. Let's stick with the midfielders for now. Next player, Martin Zubimendi. Yeah, I think he's a great player. I just don't consider him to be what we need right now. That's the issue for me. I think on a technical level, he's equal to Rodri for me in terms of a technical ability. I think his defensive attributes is where his defensive awareness is not that quick. For what we need now, we need that enforcer. Do you know what I mean? I think we need a more of a physical presence than a technical presence, if that makes sense. I feel like Zubimendi's probably one for the summer, and even then, if we've done business like this that we're planning on doing, like Bruno G, in January, Zubimendi ain't coming near Manchester City. And there's big question marks over whether he even wants to come to the UK. If you look at the Liverpool transfer saga and the way that was handled and ended up, he just basically said, I'm not interested. I don't want to go to Liverpool, you know? I mean, a part of me thinks like that was a mistake, because imagine Liverpool with Martin Zubimendi now. Jesus Christ. What an absolute disaster that would be. Disaster. But, yeah, he's a class act. He's 25, so it's a good age. 25, it's a good age. Reminded me of that Soccer AM thing I just did. Who remembers that in Soccer AM back in the day when Soccer AM was proper dirty and grimy and like none of this woke stuff that we see nowadays, where they used to wheel out these girls, these half-naked girls on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning and stick a mic under their nose and ask them seedy questions about, have you got a boyfriend, and like, how old are you, mate, how old are you? And they go like, oh, I'm 18, and everyone goes, oh, good age, good age. The fucking horrible blokes all fucking getting giddy over this. Who remembers that? Probably confused a load of people who are not from the UK, because Soccer AM back in the day was old school, mate. Old school. Anyway, Zubimendi, 25. Good age. His contract expires in 2027. 60 million release clause, though. Again, money-wise, that's going to please Manchester City board, the hierarchy, because that's a very good player for a very reasonable price in terms of the release clause. But again, I stress, is it the UK factor? Because he's already turned down Liverpool. In terms of maybe the Arnie Slot manager, maybe he wants someone more like Pep, someone a Spaniard like Pep, you know, something. I don't know. Making it up, we're just winging it here, aren't we? In terms of what the player's thinking, we don't know what he's thinking. He's obviously got a very tight and a love for Real Sociedad, and he does not want to disrespect that. So again, I think Martin Zubimendi in January is very, very unrealistic. I would be happy with it, but I don't think he's quite what we need. He's not that enforcer. He's not the physical presence that we need. He's the technical presence that I also think we need. But he's of such good quality and such similarity to Rodri. Isn't he going to be asking the same questions that Julian Alvarez asked before he ended up wearing an Atletico Madrid shirt? Like, I want to be number one. Rodri's number one. Am I going to be the number one when Rodri comes back? Am I going to be able to play alongside Rodri? Yes, I think he could do that. But is he going to be more of a number 8-6 hybrid again, like Bruno G? And if we've already signed a player that's in that position in January, then Martin Zubimendi's done. So it has to be January, and if it's not Zubimendi in January, then I can't see that one happening in summer, because we should, hopefully, surely, will have signed someone instead, which makes even less space for someone like Martin Zubimendi. But I think he'd be a great player. He's a quality player. There's no denying that. What a player he is. Now we're on to a little bit of the less likely players for me. Samuel Ricci. He's a risky one because, I mean, you're talking about the age again, 23, very young. Really, really strong defensively, lacking in... So, yeah, this is kind of what we need. The problem is the age. So, it is... I mean, it's not a bad age, is it, in terms of 23, but it's hard to gauge what their trajectory is going to be. Because, I mean, who was talking about Bruno Guimaraes being a Manchester City player when he was a 23-year-old? Do you know what I mean? 4 years later, look at the player he's become. You know, Martin Zubimendi, when he was 23, he was mentioning those names. No one was, these players weren't being linked with the size of club that is Manchester City. But as a 23-year-old, to be linked with the most important position in Manchester City, the defensive midfield position, shows incredible promise. He's Italian as well. Problematic, potentially, because Italians tend not to do well in the Premier League. I can't think of many Italians that have done very well in the Premier League, with Mario Balotelli being the only Italian to ever actually pick up a Premier League medal, which is a weird thing. I don't know why. What the hell's that all about? Why do Italians struggle? Is it the poor quality pasta? Potentially. There's no good Italian restaurants in Manchester or in the UK. There probably isn't. But, I mean, yeah, there's very few Italians that have come over to the Premier League and succeeded. Doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean he can't. He could be the one that breaks the mould and does succeed. But yeah, I think he'd be he's lower on the list for me, Samuel Ricci, because he's a big risk that I'm not convinced at. Again, very heavily on the defensive side. He's got virtually no attacking attributes to speak of. Very strong in the tackle. Big lad, good in the air as well. So there's defensive positivities there. But I mean, yeah, 18 appearances, 0 goals, and 1 assist to his name this season. So yeah, that speaks volumes to the lack of attacking attributes that he has available to him. So yeah, I wouldn't go for Samuel Ricci. Adam Wharton. That's not a name compared to all the Bruno Guimaraes, Samuel Ricci, and who else we got? Martin Zubimendi. Who else we had? Joshua Kimmich. Adam Wharton. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't really, he doesn't, I don't know. He's not quite got that zesty name, has he? He's not. If it was Adam Whartinho, then we'd be like, ho, sign him up. Sign him up. Adam Whartinho, yeah. But, yeah, good player, quality, promising player, but even more on the risky side from an age point of view. Spent a big portion of this season injured. He's only played 10 games, in fact, this season, has Adam Wharton in the Crystal Palace midfield. I think Palace are expecting him back, actually, in the next couple of days, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any on-the-pitch sort of indications that he's had his head turned, potentially, by a potential Manchester City move. I don't know. This is someone who I think City are going to, or anyone who wants to buy him will have to spend a reasonable amount of money, because, I mean, he's got a contract that expires in 2029. I think one for the summer. A market value right now of 32 million euros. I would ignore that. To be honest, I would ignore that, because if you go to Crystal Palace and knock on their door and say, how much do you want for Adam Wharton? I think they'll be asking for at least 60. I think at least 60 for a 20, plus the UK tax, English player tax, the fact that an English player playing in the Premier League, Manchester City come calling, you can add 10-20% anyway, because the world knows our circumstances right now. They know we're struggling, we got no money, and no players, sorry, not no, we've got plenty of money, but we've got no players, you know? So the fact that we're in these circumstances, they're going to put the squeeze on us, you know? They're going to try and squeeze everything they can out of us. So, yeah, I think that would be a risky move in January. One I'd be pleased with, and I think City are heavily, very interested in the player, and they've sent a lot of scouts to watch him when he has played. Obviously played in Blackburn as well, was on loan at Blackburn. Was it a season ago or a season and a half ago now? So familiar with the Northwest. Blackburn's only up the road, of course, for anyone who's wondering. He's obviously familiar with this neck of the woods. So, yeah, I could see that being one for the future, but very much in the future being a 20-year-old. You know, so, yeah, I think City will be looking... I think there's a few players City are going to be looking at in terms of Crystal Palace as well. Mark Gay, Eberechi Eze, we've already been linked with them. Adam Wharton. There's a few players there that City wouldn't have to go massive amounts of money, but... potentially bringing in an English contingency, and obviously we've got to tick those boxes now, haven't we, in terms of English players. Adam Wharton could be one that we look to in the future, but not for January for me. But again, a player we've linked with, so he's got to make the list. Tijjani Reijnders, interesting one. He's actually recently been linked with Manchester City. Very much on the attacking side of a midfielder for me, though. I see very few defensive attributes. It's not like he can't defend. He can defend, but he's more of an attacker. Like he strikes me more as a creator, a box-to-box player. Definitely someone who could fill the Gundogan role, but not quite the where's Rodri. You know, the cover for Rodri is what we're really struggling with right now. We're being bypassed in that midfield, in a non-existent physical presence is just non-existent in that midfield. Defensive awareness, positional awareness, this guy's not going to bring that. I do think he's someone we should be looking at, though, because I think creatively he's an exciting player. Definitely on the up and up as well. Currently, he's 26 years old. His contract expires in 2028. Got a market value of 30 million euros. Again, I would ignore that because I think AC Milan mid-season, they're going to be looking for more money than that, to be honest. But like I said, he's not got strong defensive attributes, but more of a central midfielder, potentially attacking midfielder. And we've also got Echeverri coming in as well. So if you're looking for that level of creativity or a player that can create, I don't know much about Echeverri, in all honesty with you. I don't know enough about him. It's an exciting possibility, but it would be probably more sensible to give the player that we know we've already got coming in, that if he's going to make it into the first team squad and be played, or at least make it onto the bench, talking about Echeverri, then give him a go. I'd give him a go, rather than putting another player in front of his path, creating an obstacle in front of Echeverri and hindering his potential growth. But again, it could work as a creator. You know, you look at De Bruyne, with the dependency on De Bruyne right now. Phil Foden is not firing Bernardo Silva. There is no creators in that midfield. And I mean, Reijnders this season, 21 appearances, 7 goals and 3 assists so far this season. 10 goal contributions from this lad in 21 appearances. So there's your creativity and your goals. So this is why I don't think he's exactly what we need. He would be a third on the list for me in terms of, we need 2. We need a central midfield enforcer and we need a right back for me. And if you wanted to add a third player, and City are reportedly interested in adding 3 new faces to this squad, he could be one of them potentially. He's a quality player. I've just realised I've put the flag there. He's not English. He's definitely not English. So apologies for that. He's Dutch, just to let you know. He ain't English. But this is what happens when you're rushing to get through to your Tesco delivery driver. Anyway, right, that's the midfielders. Now, on to fullbacks. Achraf Hakimi, again, a very attack-minded player. Is he going to be able to invert into that midfield role? Because for me, a lot of the focus right now is that Rico Lewis position. In the Rico Lewis position, the Mateus Nunes position right now. Well, the position against Manchester United, at least. I think I just heard the door, by the way, but I'm not sure it is the door, actually. It might be the Tesco. He shouldn't be here anyway, so he'll have to wait. Anyway, what was I going to say? I need food as well. It's Christmas food. Christmas food. Big up, Mad Hatter. Hey, I appreciate you, by the way. I've noticed your comments are always so thorough, mate. You always put a lot of thought and effort into your comments, and I can tell your brain is very much obsessed with Manchester City. I can tell, and I appreciate that, mate. Big up to you. Hope you're good. Hakimi, a very attack-minded right back. I think he's a sensational player, a brilliant player, in fact. Is he exactly what we need right now? Because he could be considered that false winger role that we've seen Gvardiol do on the left side of the pitch. He could be that guy on the right side of the pitch. But again, we don't need that right now. We don't need a marauding fullback going up and down the pitch. The position is most commonly used is inverting into midfield and then dropping when we don't have the ball back into that right back position. So for me, Hakimi would be a great signing, but for another day. Do you know what I mean? Someone in the summer, a new system, a different system, maybe, potentially. But yeah, 26 years old, 1 year left on his contract as well, which is great news from a business perspective in terms of being able to actually do some dealings with PSG to get this player. 60 million market value as well. But like I say, he's an out-and-out right-back. 19 appearances to his name this season, 3 goals and 6 assists. So yeah, 9 goal involvements from 19 appearances is not bad at all. Next player, Jeremy Frimpong. 24 years old, and I feel I could just echo everything I've just said about Hakimi, really, in terms of the necessity of this player. A quality player that I would love to see at Manchester City. But he's more so of a right midfielder than Hakimi even is. He's been playing so advanced up the pitch this season for Bayer Leverkusen that I'm worried about his defensive abilities because he's not really played there. He's so high up the pitch. I think he can defend. Of course he can defend. I have seen him defend, and he can do that. The question for me is he going to tick the box that we need ticking this season in terms of positional necessities for Manchester City? Because he's, again, an out-and-out marauding right-back. Someone, again, next summer for me. And that's all 9 players that Manchester City have been linked with so far. So that's Joshua Kimmich, got it gone the full round circle. In terms of players that I think we should have potentially gone for, again, we're talking about hindsight now. I'm looking at Benjamin Pavard as someone we looked at in summer, who's now at Inter Milan, and I think we made a massive mistake in 2 areas in that deal, because there was a potential deal to go ahead with Kyle Walker goes to Bayern Munich, Benjamin Pavard comes to Manchester City. He was heavily linked with us throughout summer, and I think we missed the boat with that one. He's now playing reasonably good football at Inter Milan. He can play right back, he can play centre back. He can't really invert into midfield as well, so he hasn't got that versatility, but he can do exactly what Kyle Walker's doing. He's not got the speed. I mean, has Kyle Walker anymore? Arguably not. But in terms of the player like for like, positional like for likeness, then yeah, I think this is someone we missed the boat on that one. Next thing I wanted to do was give you a visualization of the team that we could do with these targets that we've been linked with. So I want to tell you, first of all, the 2 players that I want Manchester City, from the 9 that I've shown you so far. I want City to go for both Joshua Kimmich and Bruno G. I think both Manchester City should be targeting right now. You could add Reijnders to that list as well as someone I think would be a bit of a luxury signing, bordering on luxury. I think that would be a good signing, but not a complete necessity. But if we had to get 2 out of the names that I've linked so far, I would go for Joshua Kimmich. And this is why, because I'll give you a team, for example, a starting 11 that we could see by the end of January. After the January transfer, we could see a team that looks like I've gone with Ortega in goal. Who the fuck knows now anymore? Because the number 1 position is completely all over the place. So I've gone with Ortega. Let's go with Ruben Diaz in the middle. Akanji. Okay. Let's assume he's back by the end of January. And this includes Oscar Bob. So there's a little hint who I'm going to put on the right wing for you. Josko Gvardiol. Then I wanted to see... I didn't know the number, so I've gone with 69. Everyone loves a 69. So there's Joshua Kimmich, and also number 69. Sorry, so immature. Bruno G. Look at that already. How good does that look already? Already looks so much better, doesn't it? Looks good, man. It looks good. I'm going to go Phil Foden in this little box midfield, and Kevin De Bruyne. Then I'm going to go big man up top, Jeremy Doku on the left, and I'm going to go with Oscar Bob, back from the broken leg. Is apparently supposed to happen in January, potentially February. Let's not rush him back, but let's say he is back quicker than expected. Oscar Bob's back, and I would put him in me, because I'm a massive fan of Oscar Bob. What I've seen, the small glimpses of him in a Manchester City shirt, I think he's a fantastic player. If you want to get ballsy with it, in terms of who could potentially play if we signed Reijnders, then you could just get a little bit weird with it and put another 69 on the pitch with Reijnders. I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. I think this is a little bit more realistic to have Phil Foden in there. And I mean, if you were to sign Reijnders and you wanted to play him in that advanced position in midfield, who are you dropping out Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne? Because, I don't know, you've got the injury concerns of Kevin De Bruyne, the fact that he barely struggles to make 2 matches in a row, and then Phil Foden, who's just bang out of form right now. Bang out of form. So that's my January onwards starting 11, including the signings. And obviously without the ball as well. Don't forget, this is what it would look like without the ball, is you'd have Joshua Kimmich going into right back. And you'd have Bruno G, Phil Foden dropping and Kevin De Bruyne and getting that 4-3-3 system that we've been so predominantly doing without the ball this season. And you've got that versatility with Joshua Kimmich, which he absolutely delivers. He provides a defensive awareness that Kyle Walker's not doing. He doesn't provide the speed, but he provides a versatility that can push him into midfield. I think this is a good system for me. Bruno G and Joshua Kimmich in the middle. I'm excited by that. I really am. Right. So I'm pretty sure people keep knocking on the door, so that Tesco delivery driver is going to be fucking fuming. So I bet he's unsubscribed. Anyway, yeah, I did a couple of other names as well. Just looking to the future now. I've got some names here that I wanted to talk to you about. So these are the summer names. You're looking at your Florian Wirtz, Musiala, Alex Baena. Yeah, again, I would love that. That in terms of attacking midfielders, that's the names Manchester City are being linked with. An honourable mention, a personal preference of mine, is a name we've never been linked with. We've never gone near him. But Dejan Kulusevski from Spurs is someone I think is a complete midfielder. I don't know, I can't find a weakness to his game. And it's not just because he always destroys City. He destroys plenty of teams. He is a standout player in that Spurs side, even when they are crap, you know? He was a standout player when they destroyed us 4-0. But Dejan Kulusevski is someone that can cover the whole bases as well. I would argue he could probably play as a central midfielder, bordering on defensive. I wouldn't be surprised if he could do the job in defensive midfield. Not ideal. But I can't think of a position he can't play in that midfield spectrum. You know, even out wide, I mean, he's so versatile. And how many times do we sign versatile players? You want versatility. Dejan Kulusevski is someone we should absolutely be looking at. Nico Barella is the potential other name. Again, that would take big money. In terms of wingers in the summer, Rodrigo from Real Madrid sounds likely, sounds possible with the contract running down. He's not getting first-team football at Real Madrid with the arrival of Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. He's getting more minutes lately due to injuries and suspensions, but ultimately a fully fit, no one with suspensions at Real Madrid. Rodrigo doesn't make the starting 11, whereas at Manchester City, I feel like he walks into this side, and he too can play across that line of attacking midfielders, right wing, left wing attacking midfielder, arguably a backup striker to Erling Haaland as well. It's for the false nine system. Rodrigo in the summer, someone City should absolutely be going for. But again, I've gone over the details in terms of strikers. Who in their right mind wants to become the second choice striker to Manchester City? I just don't see it. I just don't see anyone. I mean, Kyogo Furuhashi is someone we've been linked with. I think he's that sort of player that would be happy to sit on the bench and just be proud to leave Celtic and become a Manchester City player, be a good squad player, but he's not grabbing headlines in terms of like, wow, what a player we've signed there. But I think he just could do a very good job for us. Omar Mamouche is another player that we could be looking at from Eintracht Frankfurt. Again, he's on the up and up. Would he want to sit as a second choice striker to Erling Haaland? This is the problem. This is the problem with everybody. When you're looking at the size of the players that we've got, the Rodri problem, which could be why we didn't get cover for him, because who wants to be cover for anybody? Who wants to be cover for Haaland? Who wants to be cover for Rodri? You know, Ortega's already kicked off numerous times about being cover for Ederson to the point where we started him, and rightly so in that regard. In terms of defenders for Manchester City that we should be looking at, the two names that have been heavily linked with Manchester City, again, I think this will be summer, is Mark Gay and Jared Branthwaite, who I think is John Stones 2.0. Again, Mark Gay, left-footed, Branthwaite, right-footed. I think we could be looking at both those players coming to Manchester City in the summer, but you're looking at over 100 million at least to obtain both of those players. So I mean, that's I tried to be as well-rounded around the January transfer possibilities for Manchester City in terms of the targets that we're linked with. I haven't gone too far into summer because I don't think we can think that far ahead just yet. in terms of what the season needs. So that's what this video was all about, was focusing on the season at hand, where we are right now, and what we could realistically do as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I wanted to get involved with the chat as much as possible today, but I've had to rush this one out because there's someone at my door, and I'm just outright ignoring them. So I can just hear this, "Oi, dickhead, open the door!" And I'm like, no, on a live stream, mate. So never mind. Anyway, this seems like a bad video to make, as it's wishful thinking. Who would want to come to us with the charges looming over our head? Hate to be factual, but decision will be made in the summer, then sign. I'm not sure what's factual about anything you've said there, mate, because albeit the charges are a possibility, there's a lot of information that no one's privy to. But I'm glad I've made a bad video that's ruined your afternoon, so apologies for that, mate. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's wishful thinking. Some of the players that we've been linked with are realistically obtainable for Manchester City. I fully believe that. I think we're going to be... I do. And if we don't, then I'll come back to that comment and I'll hang my hat up and say, yeah, sorry, hold my hands up, sorry, and say, yeah, apologies. We are clearly in trouble when it comes to the 115. But I feel like City are going to spend big, which I'm excited about. And I think there's a definitive answer there for Manchester City fans. I truly believe that. But what do you think? Get in the comments below, everybody. Let me know your thoughts if you're watching after the fact. Please drop a like on your way out of the stream. Sorry if I had to wrap this up quicker. I had to go a bit quicker than I planned to do. But make sure you're smashing that like button on your way out. And subscribe if you're new. And take care, Blues. I will see you in the next one. Enjoy yourselves.